Hey everyone, welcome to the Creator Show. This is your host, Ruben Drieger, and I am super excited to bring on a special guest today. We're going to be talking through a couple different things, but one of the things that we've planned to talk about is Instagram and sales, which I think is so important just because a lot of you guys that are listening are heart-centered coaches, and one of the biggest things that we're always trying to do in this show is help the heart-centered people become business savvy, and sales is one of those big things. Because there's so much bad and great in it that there's all this fun stuff to talk about. So before we dive in, I always have a tendency of just diving in. Jessica is on here today. She's going to be sharing some stuff from her areas of expertise, which I've just talked about some of those. And so before we dive into that, Jessica, let's talk about you, intro you, tell people about you. And I'm excited about this.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here. I know we've talked about it for a while, and to see it actually happening, super exciting. So hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Ludlow. I am an Instagram sales and marketing coach. So I help you step into that role of actually taking the action and doing the things, getting on the sales calls, doing the things that are sometimes scary and sometimes you might steer away from. However, it's those things that make you the most money. So that's my focus of expertise on getting all these clients through Instagram, is because it is it's a loaded platform. There's so many people on it. Like, yeah, you think TikTok's big, Instagram's big, all of these platforms are big. And it's like, I get the question a lot of like, okay, well, like, how do I actually find them? So that's what I help my clients do, is just actually identify where they are. And then, okay, how do we actually get them to say yes to a sale?
Yeah, awesome. I love that. I love that. And we're going to dive into all the juicy stuff in a second here. But I know, Jessica, you've owned a couple different businesses and you've done many different things. So let's talk through a little bit of how you got started in entrepreneurship, maybe like a minute or two on each of the businesses. Let's dive into that a little bit. Number one, because a lot of entrepreneurs, and this comes from experience that I talk to, they think that their first thing in entrepreneurship needs to be the thing. And I know for myself, I thought that. And I was like, oh, I keep on failing at stuff. Am I a failure overall? And I think I tried 4 or 5 different businesses before I landed on something that actually worked really well for me, which was online fitness coaching. And I think a lot of people have that fear that, oh, if I fail at one thing, I should just stop. So talk through your journey. I want us to hit this point really hard because all the successful entrepreneurs I know, they've tried 1,000,001 things.
Yeah, so it's actually really funny that you say that. There's like a random statistic out there that they say like 8 out of 10 businesses fail. Whether it's actually that high or not, like the idea and concept behind, yes, you go through a lot of triumphs and failures and all in between. It's really, really true. So I started my entrepreneurial journey in a 12 by 12 college dorm room. I was a freshman in college, and I saw a need in the market, like any good entrepreneur was. I saw a need in the market from myself and from my peers around me, in that there wasn't any good dairy-free, gluten-free chocolate candies out there. I have an allergy. I know many people that have allergies, and I kid you not when I say that I went 4 years without eating chocolate. You think I'm crazy. Yeah, right. So I decided enough is enough. Yeah, I could go and eat like a piece of chocolate from a bar, but I couldn't eat today's favorite candies, Reese's, all of those types of things, right? So what I ended up doing is I went on Amazon, I ordered chocolate things. I went on YouTube, I went on Canva, I made background, all the starting entrepreneur things. And I created Pure Chocolate. That was my very, very first entrepreneurial journey. And whether it did amazing for the first couple of months. However, it kind of fell really fast, sales, everything. And that's because I wasn't able to reach my target market. As simple as that. And looking back, I'm like, duh, that's what it was. But I decided to put it on pause just for that reason. So fast forward a year later, I started a company with my father in which we supplied foam rollers to Amazon. And that was a really interesting experience, just with sourcing and manufacturing and working with Amazon themselves, a monstrosity that they are. And it was 100% different than a chocolate business, of course, but I wanted that experience. And that business actually did really, really well. However, Ruben, you've probably experienced, if you're not truly passionate about something, it's really hard to continue it.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided, okay, this is great. However, my dad was doing his thing. I'm like, I think it's time to do my own thing. And that's when I decided to pick up a virtual assisting business. I
Yeah.
had the option to either go into and find an internship as a college student, or B, I can do something for myself. And I took the second way, obviously, and I created one of the best virtual assisting business that I've known, not only from my personal belief, but from
Right.
all of my clients. Within 2 months, I signed 12 clients. So it
That's awesome.
it scaled very, very quickly. And like you found love in this coaching space. All of my clients were online coaches. And a realization that I had is like, I love the work that I'm doing, but I don't want to be the back end of someone's business. I want to be my own brand. I want to be my own face. I want to serve people in a different way.
Right.
And that's where I fell into this coaching role where I am today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think a couple of things that I think are so important for people to hear is like you jumped around a lot. It's not because you're like always jumping around, it's because you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do. And you like most entrepreneurs go through that. And I think for you guys listening that maybe are feeling, oh, I keep on jumping around. People are like, I'm not consistent. I mean, you probably heard it from people, and I know I heard it from friends and family, like, hey, you like never stick around. Like you are not very like committed to what you want to do. And I never believed them, but it was always kind of there in the background, like maybe I should believe them. And did you ever have those doubts or those thoughts yourself, Jessica?
I do. However, every single time I have a plan. I say,
Hmm.
I'm going to try it for this long.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, or if it doesn't feel quote unquote aligned at that time or whatever, then I'm able to switch. But I make a commitment
Hmm.
to myself to be able to try something for a period of time before I squirrel and get distracted on something else.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's good to have like a deadline for yourself. Like, no, I'm gonna do it. And I mean, probably is different per person, but what's your average kind of like time to put towards something to see if it's what you want to do?
I give it a year. I
Oh, I
give it
love
at
that.
least a year. And people are probably like with their jaws on the floor right now, like that's such a long time, but you have like patience is a virtue and I don't really have it. However, with this, I have to because
Yeah,
like any business, like it takes time. Time is the biggest resource in
yeah,
this. And so like as hard as it says, like yeah, that's what you got to do sometimes.
for sure. No, and I mean, a lot of people, it's crazy. You see a lot of people trying entrepreneurship for a couple of months, it doesn't work out, and they stop and go back to a job for the rest of their life. When in actuality, and this is something I talk to my clients a lot about, is like, yeah, there's a lot of people that can create great businesses really fast online, just because of the nature of how online works. But even if it took you, and I always push it out far. I always just say, even if it took you 5 years to get to 10K months, that's still more than you'll ever make per month working 40 years at a different place. And so it's all about playing the long game. And I like how you said being patient with it, even though most entrepreneurs aren't patient. It's good to learn that a little bit. So, okay, so this finally led you to be doing what you're doing now. And so let's talk about this a little bit. So you talked about reaching your target audience, and that was maybe one of the things that your chocolate business could have done better, and it would have actually helped you a lot, it seems like. So let's talk about that. So for service-based entrepreneurs trying to reach their target market on Instagram, let's start diving into that. What's the first thing, the second thing, the third thing that they need to be doing to start that process?
Yeah, it all starts down to as like getting crystal clear in who do you want to serve. This is, I think, the most foundational piece because when you are out looking, you have to know what you're looking for. You
Mm,
don't just go to the grocery store and say, I'm going to get food without at least some sort of idea of what you're going to get, right?
right.
So
Yeah.
I truly believe at the ground up, you have to know who you want to help in order to then create an offer that aligns with what they need, to be able to create content that feels good with what they need,
Mm.
and then to just continue the entire process.
Yeah, this is very important. And do you find I sometimes find that lots of people think it's so rudimentary to talk about this foundational stuff that they kind of skip by. Do you see a lot of entrepreneurs trying to kind of get around that?
Absolutely. They're like, I already have 5,000 followers. Why do I have to
Yeah.
focus on the girl who needs blank. But it's like the riches are in the niches. It's when you
Mm-hmm.
figure out exactly what she needs,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to help her tenfold.
Yeah, yeah, so important, and it's funny because I'll share two examples on this just so that people really do get this. So number one, I just read a book by Russell Brunson. It's his new book on traffic secrets, and it's funny how he in that book, which most people would say is the best book on getting traffic out there, talks about this exactly. The first thing is knowing your ideal client better than anyone else, knowing where they're hanging out, what they're already doing on social media. So that's one example. The second example that I'll give you quickly, just so you guys have this solidified, is I was in a room in LA in February before all this crazy COVID stuff happened with a bunch of people that were making 10 million, 50 million, 100 million a year. And a lot of the issues that they were running into business were because their foundation was still not right. It all came back to what they called model one, which is having those right people that you're talking to. And it's funny how even businesses, they got really big, but all the issues that were coming up, all the parts of businesses that were kind of not working right were because of the foundation. Just like a house, it shifts and moves because the foundation's not right. So great point. I absolutely love it. I love the basics. The basics is where it's at. So let's say, I mean, how does someone come up with their niche? Is it because some people have different opinions on it. Some people say it should be relevant to who you used to be. Some people like just pick a niche that you think you'd enjoy. Some say pick a niche that's profitable. How do you help people find the niche that they should be going after?
Yeah, well, for sure. I definitely say in that the passion has to be there. Like with all of my businesses, that is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And I tell my clients every single day, are you passionate about what you're doing? Because if you're not, okay, why wouldn't you just go work a 9 to 5 or be miserable somewhere else doing whatever else, right? So are you passionate about it? If you happen to be a past version of been that person before,
right,
great. You can relate so much better to that girl and be able, or guy for that matter, that ideal client, that ideal avatar, all those words that you might hear.
Yeah.
If you can go back and like picture yourself back in that mode, it can help them a lot. However, there are people that don't also want to go backwards to that because it might have been a dark point in their life, or maybe it wasn't that bad, but they also just want to move forward, whatever. So another aspect I would look at is, are there trends going on right now that you're also passionate about, that are potentially sustainable? Example, veganism. That's becoming more and more popular.
For sure.
Is that something that you're passionate about that you can now coach others on? It's getting creative, because I think that one thing, I was actually talking with one of my clients the other day about this, is that people feel like they're in some sort of box. But when you own your own business, you have zero rules. Besides hard work and waking up every day and wanting to work, right?
Yeah.
Besides that, you get to decide who you work with, who you don't work with, what offer feels good, what doesn't, everything in between. Yeah. So it's being able to remove a box away from you, remove the four walls, remove whatever, and just do what you feel aligned. And in addition, if it's more profitable than some, even better.
Totally. No, I like that. The two that really stood up to me is obviously the passion one, because I mean, you want to do something. If you're going to put a lot of work into something, you want to love it. Number two, the trends, which is really cool, because there are some things that are just doing a lot better right now than others. So I love that. So now we're starting to figure out. So the people that are listening to this, if you want to write this stuff down, that's going to be very helpful for just retaining and actually doing something about this, not just listening. So now that you know, okay, I'm figuring out who my avatar is, I know who they are, how I'm going to help them, I'm passionate about it. What's the next step? So we know who they are. How do we go find them? How do we interact with them? How do we produce content for them? What's the next step?
Yes. Well, next is either going and finding them or doing market research if you're still not 100% clear of who they are or what they want. So in order to do market research, you kind of need to be able to talk to them, right? So if you're on Instagram, for example, are you going and looking under hashtags? That's an option. Or you could be going under and looking at someone who is 3 steps ahead of you doing what you want to be doing, and looking at their following and looking at their people that they've been engaging with, and kind of dialing in and seeing where these people are on Instagram. Same goes with Facebook. There's Facebook groups. There's Reddit. People are asking questions. When it comes to market research, which is the next step here, it's being able to say, okay, now what do you really need? Because you are the one I want to serve. If I could make all your pain go away tomorrow, what do you need help with? Do you need accountability? Do you need knowledge? Do you need to learn a 5-step process? What is it that you need? And then you create.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's another one of those basic things that people never do, market research. And so what are maybe some of your favorite ways to do market research? Is it going to Quora and looking at people asking questions, or is it finding your ideal clients and then just asking to get on a call to literally ask 10 questions and you'll give them something in return for free? What's one of your favorite ways to do it?
Instagram stories is actually probably my most common, and I would say favorite, because it's so easy. Like, you don't have to schedule a call and then stand on the call. While that's all great, and like you should do it to a certain extent, but if you just have a question of like, what are you quickly struggling with, or like, what do you want to know more about, nutrition, food, like exercise, whatever, being able to throw up a poll on your story and have a conversation with them in the DMs. However, sometimes some people don't feel comfortable with that because they're like, oh, great, now she's going to pitch to me. But if you're doing it from the purpose of straight market research, be honest with them and say in your stories, I won't pitch to you. I just want to know how to serve you better, and go from there.
No, I think that's perfect. And I mean, that's even just a good tactic to use. No matter what, just be transparent. Because even when people try to book sales calls, a lot of them they'll kind of like put this like shroud over it, like, this isn't a sales call, but it actually is. And so I think that's such a good idea of like, no, actually just being like, there's going to be no pitch on it, no sales. I literally just want to ask you questions. And actually, sometimes what I'll even do is actually just be like, I will literally send you a $10 Starbucks card after this, like, or even before it, just being like, hey, literally, all I want is a couple questions answered. So that's awesome. So they know who their ideal client is, they're doing some market research, figuring all this stuff out. And for someone that's new, I mean, this is great stuff. This is like actually going to be so helpful for them. So is the next step launching? Is the next step getting on sales calls? What do you normally do with clients at this point?
Yep. At this point, when they've gotten their offer created, if you haven't done that yet, that would be part of the next step. But the next point for me is launching, is putting it out there. Because one thing that I frequently find is that people are afraid to launch because they're afraid to ask for something.
Right.
They're afraid that they're stealing from someone if they sign up for their course. When really, you might have all heard this before, sales is simply an exchange of value. Whether you're buying a blender or you're buying a $4,000 coaching program, you're giving and you're getting. And that's exactly where you go next. And it's really making sure before even launching, you are in the headspace and knowing that, and that you're able to say, okay, I'm ready to serve for an exchange, and creating a launch strategy that feels good. And this is one of the things that I do actually in sophisticated sales, is that in one of my programs, is that we dial down, okay, this is a typical launch process, but you said that you want to do things a little different. So let's make it a way that feels good to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. No, I love this. And so they're launching their businesses, and you're right. A lot of, especially the new entrepreneurs, when they're doing sales for the first time, whether it's in a post that they're asking people to apply or whatever it is, they're a bit scared, right? Because I think there's a lot of, whether it's money mindset or self-worth things coming up, or maybe it's self-sabotage because they don't believe they can do it. So because that's a bit more of a mindset piece that they can work on, especially I find it, I mean, every entrepreneur, no matter what level, to get to the next level, there's mindset shifts, but there's a specific type of mindset shift for those new people. So how do you help those people, whether is it mantras, is it affirmations, is it visualization, is it meditation? How do you get into the right mindset space?
I typically I do what things that work for me and I teach them to my clients. And then I also take things that worked from my past clients and apply them to my new clients.
Right.
So getting in a high vibration, a high energy, something that makes you feel good. So if it's having a dance party, you've heard that before. If it's you, like getting your nails done once a week, like whatever it is, get in the right space mentally. But then in addition to that, do it from a place of not just pushing limiting beliefs aside, but working through them. So for me personally, I give my clients a list of journal prompts. And if you journal with them, great. If you just lay in bed and think through them and work through that thought and how it's actually incorrect and how you can find new pieces of evidence to reframe that thought into something that'll serve you, that all of these combined is what makes you be able to wake up the next morning and say, okay, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. I love that. And that's such a good tip, getting into a really good vibe or space in your head. And I think that's super important, because if you come into it with a really bad mindset, I mean, you're setting yourself up to fail, because especially in sales, people can feel your energy. Even though you might be saying the right words, if they like feel like you're just not into it, or if you're just like not even confident, I mean, people are attracted to confidence, right? So that's awesome. That's awesome. So I know a big thing that you do great is sales on Instagram. So what are some other tips as far as how to utilize specifically that platform for sales? Is it, I mean, do you do a lot of stories? Do you have specific like flows that you follow? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I do post content daily, whether it's Instagram stories or a post, because I always want to be showing up in their feed. I always want to be the top of their mind. You talk about marketing strategy here.
Yeah.
There is something, actually, if I can explain this real quick, it's called mere exposure theory. So the more you warm up to something, the more you start to like it. The more you see it, the more you warm up, the more you start to like it. You think about a food. You don't like it the first time, but as you eat it more and more, it becomes okay. You are exactly that for someone on your Instagram page. The more you show up, the better. And if they really don't like you because you probably just had that thought go through your head, they'll unfollow you. And that's okay, because they're not meant for you and you're not meant for everyone. And that's okay. But that's the first thing that I do, is I make sure I'm getting content out. That's quality. Quality over quantity is huge.
Yeah,
But then the second part to that is engaging and genuinely wanting to be friends with people. Like I say this all the time, is the simple fact is like, I love just making new friends. Like I just love reaching out. I love commenting on people's things, not because it might lead to a sale, quote unquote, down the line, but because I genuinely want to just make friends and build a community. Right. And with community will come income and impact.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And that's, I mean, the more and more the online space gets automated in a lot of ways, that human touch is so crucial. And one of the things I always tell, especially new entrepreneurs, is like the biggest advantage you have is the amount of time you have to be human on social media, which I think is so good. And absolutely love what you said about the whole mirroring, because I mean, it's true. It's even a lot of people, they don't like to repurpose content, but the funny thing is, repurposed content often does better because people have already seen it and agreed with it and they like it again, which is a fascinating thing. A lot of people get scared that people won't like it, and you're right. People that won't like it, they'll unfollow you, and I guess that's another mindset thing to go through. Being okay with having people like you and some people not like you. Is that something that your clients deal with as well?
For sure. I think a lot of what stems from them is like, okay, but then if I don't have enough followers, then I'm not going to be able to make sales. Right. But there's a belief that you eventually learn to accept through mindset work and through actually showing up every day, that you realize all the people that I need are right in front of me. Have you heard of the 1,000 true fans?
Yes.
Like, so all you need is 1,000 true fans. And really, when you're just starting out, 10, 15 true fans who like what you're doing, that you can be able to serve in some way, whether it's a $20 offer or a $200 offer, whatever it might be, for them to gain testimonials, to gain traction, for you to then take the next steps of scaling, however that might be for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It comes down to the quality over quantity, where especially when you're selling a product that's valued a decent amount, whether it's $400 a month, $500 a month, you don't need that many clients to have a great income. I mean, it's a lot of people are scared. Yeah, like these people have massive followings. I can never do that. And it just comes down to actually knowing your numbers and what actually matters. And that, I mean, it's the whole vanity metrics versus valuable metrics, I call them, and actually knowing which ones to pursue. Because at the end of the day, if you follow the vanity metrics, you'll end up at that destination. If you follow the valuable metrics, you'll end up at that destination. And it's what you want at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting that you bring up like the whole type of metrics, because if you're going more for vanity metrics, you tend to naturally fall more into the influencer space.
Mhm.
Whether you go to the, you call them valuable metrics, okay, that's about building your own business. Both are okay, but what is your end goal, like you said?
Exactly. I mean, whatever you're doing right now and focusing on, you're going to end up wherever the path leads, right? And a lot of people are doing activity in one path, expecting a different destination. It's like if I wanted to right now go on a road trip to New York, but I liked the road and the highway that led to LA, I wouldn't end up where I wanted to go. It just wouldn't end up. And so it's really important to realize, okay, it's correcting the mindset, right? Am I building a business or am I building my Instagram? And when you figure out which one you want, either one's fine with me. Just go after actually the one you want.
Absolutely.
There you go. There you go. So now one of the things, and we talked about this before we press record here, is, I mean, you've done a couple of businesses. You've gone out after it. You've designed your life. You've created the lifestyle that you wanted. And we always ask questions around this because I want people to. A lot of people listening are those new entrepreneurs that they're trying to go from default to start to design their life, to start to create the life that they truly want, whether it's impact, whether it's income, whether it's how they want lifestyle freedom, whatever it is. So give some tangibles about how you went from being that backseat driver to taking control.
One of the biggest things that I did is I sat down and I'm like, where do I want my life to be? And
Mhm.
what do I really want? And again, this kind of started back as a freshman in my little dorm room.
Mhm.
I never really felt like I fit in. So I'm like, why am I forcing something that doesn't work? And
Mhm.
while there are people that fail, look at how many people succeed. And why can't I be the succeed? Instead of looking at the quote unquote possibility or the probability, I started to
Mhm.
look at the possibility.
Yeah.
And that's where I had enough courage, because that's what it comes down to.
Right.
It's being able to say, okay, I'm ready, and take that step. And
Mhm.
also realizing, because I am someone who likes to kind of catastrophize for a minute, it's, I think, natural where the brain goes of being like, what's the worst that could happen?
All right.
Nothing that bad, nothing that bad happens. Like,
Mhm.
okay, pure chocolate, my first business, didn't work at first. For a while I paused it for a moment, for now at least, you know.
Yeah.
So what was the worst case scenario of that? It led me to another great
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
So being willing to step out of the box and try something new and not care about what other people think, as hard as it is, I've really, really tried to say, I'm not living other people's lives. I'm living
Yeah.
mine, whether it's my parents, whether it's my friends, whether it's my family. I'm living the life that I'm going to be happy with. And
Mhm.
that's where it goes from there.
No, and that's a good tool, actually. My wife and I use a tool quite often. It's like, what is the worst case scenario that could happen? And if we can survive and live with it, then, and if we truly want to go after it, then we go after it, right? And a lot of people are held back because, like you said, maybe the chances or the ratios of people that are successful at something isn't high. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It just means, yeah, it's going to take some work and commitment. But if at the end of the day you have to go back to a job, that's okay. That's okay. You tried, you went after it, you were courageous. I think a lot of people are going to regret at the end of their lives that they didn't try more. And so I think that's awesome. I think that's so helpful. So now, obviously, for people listening to this, and if they've been finding a ton of value from you, I want to make sure Jessica, that they can find you and maybe get some more of this tangible value. So where is the best place to connect with you, say hi, check out your stuff, etc.?
Yes. So come hang out with me on Instagram. That is my favorite place to be. I am Jessica Ludlow, like literally all spelled out. I am Jessica Ludlow. Come hang out with me there and send me a DM. Tell me that you found me through here, and I would love to connect with you. I also am launching a podcast very, very soon. So I would love to come have you over and hang out with me on there. It's Entrepreneur Radio. So be on the lookout for that. And that's where I am.
Perfect. Perfect. You heard it, guys. So if you are listening to this, I'm sure the podcast will be released in a little bit. So check that out. And Jessica, yeah, thank you for coming on, for sharing the tangible help, your journey a little bit, how to kind of go from default to design. All very helpful stuff. I think our audience is going to love this. So honestly, thank you for being on.
Thanks. See you guys later.
Awesome, guys. Well, you have an amazing rest of your day. All you listeners, as always, make sure you're going and creating some impact today. And we'll be catching you guys in the next episode. Bye for now, guys.